All right, so today we're going to be making a really cool painting of a truck with a tree. It could be a Christmas tree, and we're going to be using oil pastels, and then you're going to do a watercolor wash over it. You're using a really nice watercolor paper. It's thicker than what we use for our other art projects, and just remember to put your name on the back, and you could use the dry rack when you're done. But this is something that I really love because you can, with a small art piece, you can frame it, you can put it on paper and just have it framed and be able to give it to somebody, even buy a picture frame, and that could be your gift for a Christmas gift or, you know, anything. I think art is just something really special, and it could even be something you take out year to year and go, hey, when did I make that? So let's get started. All right, so the first step to our process is we need to use a pencil, and we're going to draw our truck with a tree in it. It could be a Christmas tree, it could just be a winter tree, whatever you're feeling like. And let's get started. So I'll put this over here. So you're going to have a small piece of paper, and it's watercolor paper. It's a very nice heavy type of paper, not something that we use typically in art unless it's art club, because it's really nice paper, and so I'm going to let you guys get to use that today. So to start, we need a pencil, and the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to put our wheels on first, and think about placement. You know, when you have it, you don't want the wheel this far that you don't have the entire back end of your truck. So I'm going to start by doing a circle for one wheel and the circle for the other wheel. Try to make them similar in size and spread out on your paper. Then you're going to do another circle inside of that one. Do it for both. And for that hubcap, we're going to do the same thing. You're going to do a small one inside there, like that. The next part is we want to connect and do the bottom of our truck. So you're going to draw a line across. And we're going to pretend it goes through, and we're going to do a small line through the front wheel and a longer medium line through the back. So that's the bottom of our truck. Now we're going to do one of the benders. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw a straight line up, and then you're going to take that line for a walk. You can have it straight or curved, up to you. And you're going to bring it back down on an angle, just like that. And then we're going to do the same for the next one. So you're going to do a straight line up, take it across, and bring it back down, but this time not on that little line there. Perfect. Now we're going to draw where our door is, so near the middle. You're going to do a nice tall line like this, and then you're going to do another line coming up this way, almost where you're above the wheel, and then that's when you bring this angle down here like that. Good. And now what you're going to do is you're going to take this as a curve around the front, come on down, and connect it. Perfect. So there's the start of the front of our truck. Now let's make the windows. So what you're going to do now is an angle coming out of this top corner. And we're going to follow this same angle line here. That gives it that illusion, and then you connect it. We're going to follow this same line, angle line that you just did again. And we're going to do a straight line across the top, straight line down, and connect it. Good. All right. So if you want to add a handle, you could add a handle to your door. And I'm going to add a headlight right here. Let's add a grill. So I'm going to do a line like this, another line here, and I'm going to do my grills. So I've got a bumper and a grill. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is draw the bed of the truck. And so about midway here, I'm going to draw a straight line all the way across. And if it's not straight, don't worry. And that's what I'm going to connect to this line here. And I'm going to add a tail light, and then I'm going to add a bumper at the back of my truck. Perfect. And then we're going to put kind of like an edge or ledge on here. So I'm going to do these two lines, and I'm going to connect those again, just like that. Perfect. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to draw our tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an angle coming off the top corner here. And I'm going to make it look like it's an upside down V, or kind of an angled V. And then you're going to do some zigzags to connect it. Here's the top part of my tree. Coming out of it, I'm going to do a angled line and another angled line, and I'm going to connect it with a zigzag. Good. For the third row, this one is going to touch this part here, and then I'm going to do another angle coming out, and this time I'm going to do the zigzag until it gets here. And it can get bigger as you go, so you can make the line a little bit bigger. And I'm going to do maybe one more, like that. And then I'm going to do a little line angle down, and that's what's going to be my stump of the tree, or the trunk. Perfect. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our oil pastels, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so at your table you're going to see three bowls that have different oil pastels. I've got my warm colors in here. I've got my neutrals, which are the whites, blacks, and browns. And then I have my cool colors. So as you're grabbing, you know my rule, we always take one out at a time, and then you put it back. And I know even if you're using it, they're the same color, so you don't have to worry about, oh, do I have the correct hue that I was just using. This way it doesn't get squished on the floor, and it keeps everything organized. So you can color your truck any way you want, but I want you to remember the kind of the trick with oil pastels is they don't cover everything beautifully like a colored pencil or a marker or even sometimes a crayon. So you want to have some of this watercolor paper texture showing through when we do that really nice wash at the end. So I love to do my trees a red. So I'm going to grab a red, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my areas, and I'm just going to gently cover over where I want my red to be, right? And then I'm going to go in. So start taking your one color choice that you like, and just gently, you don't need to push hard with these, gently go over the areas of your truck for that one color. So why don't you do that now? Now you notice I left this one area right here a little bit white on top. So there's a couple tricks that you can do with that. But once I do my first color, and you can see the red is showing through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the black, and there's some areas that I really wanted to have the lines show up really well, like a shadow. So I can just gently blend the oil pastel over the red area. And I'm just gently doing it just to give it some, shadow, not even really covering it all in, okay? You can even use your finger to smudge it if you really want. And I'm just going to go over those lines that I did, just to make some emphasis so it stands out, okay? You don't have to go over everything. For me, I just want some shadow on some areas here. It's a little wintry at night. So the nice part is if I ever did too much, I can go back over with the red, and it makes it a reddish black, like a good shade, which is exactly what I was looking for. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward to getting the wheels done and just some of my other spots for us. Alright, so now I'm to this point that I've got my car a little bit further along, and what I wanted to show was the tree. So when you go to the tree, I want to leave some areas with snow. So I'm going to just draw or color in, follow my lines, and I'll color in parts of my tree like this, and I'm going to leave some areas blank of where I think snow should be falling on it. So as you know, I'm a big believer in always outlining first. It's just easier to go back in and color what you want to color than not. So I'm going to have that area be white like for me, and then maybe a little bit more here. I want some white showing on that spot. And for my bottom part, I'm going to outline that there and leave a big area of white snow kind of just glistening. So once I've done my tree, I'm going to take the white pastel. I'm going to go over areas that I want to add some white. I use white in my hubcaps a little bit. I use the white on over my red a little bit if there's some areas that I really wanted to have shine. If you want your windows to be a little shiny, those are some little tricks that you can do. And once you're done with your tree, let me get my arm out of the way. Here's my tree trunk, and I don't want it to blend in too much, so I'm going to take the black over it a little bit. And if there's some areas on your tree that you really wanted to highlight or add some shadow to, you could just take the black and do some neat little shadows under a couple of them, and it just kind of helps it show up a little bit more. That's all. Perfect. Okay, so using your black, I want to do a little shadow underneath, kind of what our truck is on. So very lightly, we're going to do that. And then the next thing is, this is at night. So let's use your white, and if your white's really dirty, you can use a paper towel and just kind of wipe off some of the area if it stands out. But let's do some snowflakes. So it's hard to see, but just imagine that you're doing some snowflakes where you want them to fall. Maybe you want some areas of hills, so I'm just drawing some hilly areas of snow. And they're just kind of these rainbows. Can't see them now, but you'll see them soon. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a blue, or you can take, there's an indigo in there, and I'm just going to just gently, see it's like a little violet indigo purple. I'm going to gently do my sky, just very lightly. I don't want to cover all of it. Do my sky, this darker blue, like this. And only that small area here. I'm going to leave this other area a little bit of my white because it's snowy. So once you're done with this step, we're going to move on to our next step. Alright, so the last step is we're going to do a watercolor wash over this, the entire thing. And the most important thing that you need to remember is our cups are filled halfway with water. We're using a watercolor brush. And the reason we use a specific type of brush called a watercolor brush is this type of brush it holds a lot of water in the hairs of the brush. And it's also very soft and gentle, so it doesn't rip the paper. When we use watercolor itself, you always get them in these trays. You can also get liquid watercolor, and they also have tubes of watercolor. And tubes of watercolor is you would squeeze a tiny little bit out and put lots and lots of water on it, and it would become a nice puddle. So whenever you use watercolor, we're never digging in the watercolor palettes because watercolor is meant to be used with water. So the first thing I always do is using clean water is I make puddles. Okay? So I don't feel like using yellow today, but I'm going to do a nice blue. So I'm just going to do some drops of water and make a nice puddle inside of the tray. Because you don't want to paint with paint, you want to paint with watered down paint, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've ever known that the lid of your paint palette is actually where you can mix colors. So a lot of artists will drop their paint color in here and they'll mix a color that they want to use. So this kind of became like a greenish blue, and then they would drop some more water in, maybe grab more of that pigment of the one that they want, and now it becomes a darker blue. So you can mix and match. You know, if I wanted to use my purple, I need to wake it up, make those awesome water droplets. And what you probably didn't notice is my water, as soon as I touched it, because I touched the purple a little bit, my water's changing color. I can always tell if we're not using watercolors correctly because your water gets dirty very quick. You never want it to get dirty that quick because that means you're grabbing too much paint. And you want the paint to go on your paper and not in your cup. So I am going to show you. I'm going to use my blue and I'm going to do a wash. Grab some more water and just go over everything. I'm always grabbing lots of water. Here I grabbed a little bit more. You could just see this beautiful scene starting to take over. And just paint over everything, even the red. I'm going to give it that nice bluish tint where it's really outside. And that's the nice part about watercolor paper, is it has this great texture. So my water's still staying clean, as you can see. And what I might do down on the bottom here is I'm going to wake up my black. I might do black on the ground. And don't be afraid if you're like, oh no, I already painted it. You could always take the black over it. So here are my snowy hills, as you can see, where earlier I had done that. And you don't have to follow the exact colors I have. If you wanted to have some purple in your sky, you could grab a little bit of purple and maybe add some of the purple closer to your truck. More of a night scene this way. Here we go. So anywhere and everywhere that oil pastel didn't touch, it will be covered. And there is your kind of Christmas tree red truck painting. You'll let this dry, probably put it on the dry rack, and as you can see, my cup is really clean. It's hard actually to tell, but the water is not dirty at all. I don't even know if it shows on here. There we go. So my water's not dirty. It's just got some stuff from earlier today. Some sparkles looks like in there. But that's how your cup should look when you're using watercolor.